Welcome everybody to a very special edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. This is a Not Your Average Investor Fortune Builders crossover. We've done it a couple of times before, always very celebrated based on having these two titans of real estate put together. But just so you know, if you are new here, what we normally do is Greg and I, which you will meet in a second, go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We call it the Not Your Average Investor Show. This is a YouTube channel. It's a podcast if you want to listen to replays. And it is all about finding better ways to get to retirement with a highlight on rental property investing, right? So if you want to get really in depth into rental property investing, into not your average way of thinking of how you reach financial independence, you can join us here Tuesdays and Thursdays, which you've already signed up for. You can listen to it on the podcast. You can listen to it on YouTube. And more importantly, here on when you join live, you get to be part of a very special community of folks that join us week after week and come here. You get to make a new friend. And I'm going to ask our community today, we're going to do it a little differently because we want to be inclusive of our Fortune Builder friends that are joining us for the first time. But if you are a JWB client, put it in the chat and say where you're from. We'll want to get people connected here so that if you're new and you're a Fortune Builders, you're showing up because Paul Shively told you to show up today, which I don't blame you. I'd be doing the same thing. Please put it in the chat as well and let us know where you're coming from and what brought you here. We'd love to hear from you, but I'm just the host here, guys. My name is Pablo Gonzalez. My usual co-host, this handsome fellow over here, I like to call GC because he's got genius concepts, because he knows how to generate cash flow, because he's a great co-host. We're going to talk a little bit more about him, but for right now, all you need to know is that his name is Greg Cohen. Say hello, Greg.
Hello, everybody. Great to be with you.
Great to be with you too. And the returning star, the guest of honor here, Paul Shively, who is, if you are part of Fortune Builders, you can't miss him. He runs the PIC, the Passive Investor Club. He's participated in over $2.5 billion worth of assets under management. He's been part of over $3 billion worth of real estate transactions. He's part owner of Equity Street Capital. We call him the Jason Statham of real estate investing out here. Until I saw him in person, I realized he's way better looking than I even thought, just in a Zoom screen. So we might have to redefine that, man. But Paul, it is great to have you back in the house, my friend.
I love being here, man. I love being here. I'd say this every time. It feels like coming home when I get to chat with you guys. I'm just still waiting for I think I've hit my 5 timers, maybe 6 timers. Yeah, I'm still waiting for my 5 timers jacket, but we'll just leave that right there and see what happens.
Well, TBD, but we got a bunch of people checking in. We've got over 130 people here in the chat. I see many members of our community. I see Zach Correa, who's a Fortune Builders guy and a JWB client. I see the MVP of our community here, Lee Bishop, also a Fortune Builders JWB guy. I see Greg Stone, the better Greg around here, checking in, Fortune Builders JWB homeowner as well. Plenty of folks checking in. We're not going to spend too much time on the roll call, which is a little tradition that we have around here that if you stick around, you get to be a part of. But I want to see people connecting in the chat. I want to see you using the Q&A button because this is for you to really understand. We're going to be talking about an advanced debt pay down mechanism that increases your cash flows, increases your passive income quicker, gets you to that income goal quicker. But first, GC, you're a guy. Listen, really impressive stats by Paul. And it's going to make your stats look a little bit smaller, but I'm still impressed, buddy. You've got $1.3 billion worth of under management yourself. You yourself own 400 rental properties. Your company, JWB, manages 6,000 properties. You've been on the front page of the Wall Street Journal a couple of times because you invented the build-to-rent space out here. Recently acquired 20 city blocks of downtown Jacksonville because you believe so much in the overall Jacksonville market. Super impressive stuff. 100-person company. You win Best Places to Work awards. You won the Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year. I'm obviously your biggest fan. No big deal. But what I really want to ask you, GC, is you and your 3 partners have really just dedicated yourself to making the rental property opportunity easy for people and making it as passive as possible in Jacksonville, Florida specific. Can you just give me a little background of what made you fall in love with rental properties to build this company?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that it wasn't in the cards when I started this journey 18 years ago. It was never in the cards. I was not brought up in an entrepreneurial family. I went to college and expected to get a great job, and I went to go and work in corporate America, and it didn't work out for me at that job. But what also was happening at that time is, I realized through great mentors that I have, being Paul and the entire Fortune Builders team, I realized the power of what real estate could do for me. And so I was a young kid at that time. I was 22, 23 years old at that time. And I said, well, what do I have to lose? Let me go ahead and jump into it. Now, when we jump in as Fortune Builders, and for everybody to know, I was the original Fortune Builder student, even before there was a Fortune Builder student. So I know what it's like to be a Fortune Builder student. What you're trying to do in the beginning is you're trying to figure out where you sort of land in real estate, and you're trying a whole bunch of different things, and you're finding out where your expertise is. And that's what it was for me. So I didn't start out saying that I was going to own 400 rental properties and build a business that, manages $1 billion in assets and rental properties for individuals. What happened was I tried everything and I found what my niche was. But the way that I found that niche was not a comfortable process, let's say, because if we go back in years now, it was 2006 when I started. My business partners and I, fresh off of conversations with Van Merrill, Paul Asasian, the entire Fortune Builders team, and the CT Homes team at that time, we bought our first 40 single-family rental properties, and we started to build our portfolio while we were doing all these other things, wholesaling, renovating, flipping high-end homes, lease options, you name it, we did it all. But then something happened called the Great Recession. And, those were tough times for me. And what it forced my business partners and I to do was to really look at what was working well in our business and what was not working well. There were a lot of things that were not working well, so it was easy to see those things. But I remember sitting back, and this was probably 2008, 2009, and saying, okay, there's a lot of things that aren't working well. Let's look at the books and let's see what's actually working well. And when we sat down, we looked at our financials, it was those first 40 rental properties that were actually meeting and exceeding expectations. They were producing a return on investment, all while there was a real estate crash going on. And it was because rents continued to come in. People were still occupying our homes. Rents were actually increasing during the global financial crisis and the Great Recession. And so we looked back and we said, well, we spend almost no time managing this part of our business, yet it's the only thing that's working right now. And it was an epiphany for us. We absolutely fell in love with this asset class, not because of what makes a lot of headlines, which is there's an incredible opportunity to earn a very high return on your investment. But personally, being more conservative, and Shively, I know you are too, you're built like me, right? Being more conservative, I love how this asset class performs in bad economic times. And so when we kind of zeroed in on that, we started to really build a team and a system and a process that could give access to everyday investors to be able to build a portfolio similar to how we started out and really focus on that client experience. And so that's been that 18-year journey for me. It certainly was not in the cards in the beginning, but through understanding this asset class at a deep level, and I think it really plays well for where we are as an economy today. People are fearful about bad economic times. This is an asset class that just performs so well when times aren't so great. And what we've also seen is that it has that incredible upside as well.
Love that. Paul, do you have like an origin story like that? Like, I mean, you are the head of the Passive Income Club, right? Like, I know that you are really into this. You're also a JWB client. I know that you've bought some JWB properties for your family. What was your aha moment when it came to rental properties?
Yeah. I mean, my story is similar, has some differences. I was a young 21, 22-year-old kid, kind of like you had, Greg, where you had started to get into it. And I had the good fortune, much like you did, to get around Fan and Paul at that age, right? Fan Merrill and Paul Asasian, the heads of Fortune Builders. And very frankly, I just did what they told me to do, right? Because I was a young 21, 22-year-old kid, which happened to be really good because they're phenomenal business owners. But my aha moment came actually when my father got sick. I was around 24, 25, and my father got sick. And so I wanted to be able to take time off of work and go be with him, right? We weren't sure what was going to happen. And he's fine. He's great. We actually go play golf on an annual trip, and we're getting ready to go do that now in a couple of months. So we're all excited. He's good. But the same type of thing, Greg, it wasn't an external financial, it was an internal event that happened in my family where I was able to take time off of work and I still had income coming in, right? My fiance at the time didn't have to worry about, well, where are the bills coming from? Like she worked too, but we had where are the bills getting paid from? Well, we still had thousands of dollars coming in from our rental properties that I had done what Dan and Paul told me to do. Buy rental properties, take your paychecks, start investing, start stacking rental properties every year, right? 1 or 2 a year at least, and just start stacking them because it will grow over time. And we'll show you how that happens in today's call. And I took time off, didn't have income coming in from my everyday job, but I still had income coming in from my rental properties. And that was my aha moment of, wow, this provides security, stability, freedom of time, which was really big for me at that moment. And that's when I started to really dive into the financial engineering piece. How do I put this on steroids? How do I get this to go faster? I love this. I'm conservative, like you said, Greg, but I'm also impatient. And so I like things that go well to go even better and go faster. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, which is cool, is we started to develop a strategy of how do I make this go quicker, right? Which was really, really fun. So that was kind of my aha moment for me.
I love it. All right. Well, I think really what would be really important to understand why Shively loves this asset class, why I love this asset class, why 170 folks that are joining right now, a lot of you love this asset class. It comes down to the 5 profit centers. And there's a lot of miseducation or lack of education about how rental properties actually provide this profit for you. So I thought we'd start there, the 5 profit centers, right? The ways that you get paid by rental properties. Number 1 is your net rental income, otherwise known as positive cash flow. And this is one that gets a lot of eyeballs and headlines and is at the forefront of decisions for investors on investing in rental properties, which is a good thing. But also, many times what this net rental income does is it becomes the only decision-making criteria for investors. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. Net rental income would be, listen, you've got your gross rents that are coming in, the rents that the residents are paying, or many people call them tenants. We call them residents because they stay forever. You've got gross rental income coming in, and then you've got expenses that come along with owning and operating the property. So your net rental income would be what's left over after a month. So that's your first profit center. Next, you've got tax savings. And tax savings, again, an incredibly misunderstood profit center. And we have a lot of additional training, and I hope you guys continue to come back on these calls because we can dive more into it. But at the end of the day, rental properties are a tax-advantaged asset, almost like none other. Because you just simply invest in rental properties, you don't have to have any special qualifications. You get advantages on the tax side that you just simply don't get in other asset classes. And so you're able to offset and defer a lot of income through tax write-offs. And so what this does is it keeps more money in your pocket at the end of the year, and you don't have to pay taxes on the income that you earn, which is a great thing. Next, you've got your principal pay down. This is where your residents are living in your home, paying you rent. Not only are they producing positive cash flow, net rental income for you, but they're also paying your loan balance down. And what a great show to go into that, which is, again, going to be the core of the show today. We're going to talk about how to effectively pay those loans down even quicker. But even if we didn't employ the strategy that we're going to be talking about today, it's still happening. And that's because your residents paying that principal balance down for you. Next, you've got home price appreciation. That's your 4th profit center. That's what gets a lot of headlines as well. And home price appreciation, at the end of the day, when you look back on your experience of owning rental properties, home price appreciation will account for 60 to 80% of your overall portfolio returns on investment. It is incredibly important, but again, it's very misunderstood. And I hope you guys continue to come back because we certainly dive into that one a lot. And lastly, it's inflation hedging and inflation profiting. And prior to probably the last 2 years, nobody ever talked about inflation hedging and inflation profiting, but now we all see how important it is. And rental properties as an asset by itself are a hedge against inflation. It's one of the reasons why you see rents and home prices have gone up so much over the last couple of years as inflation has gone up as well. It's not a coincidence. It's happened decade after decade after decade. So those are your 5 profit centers. That's the way you get paid. Shively, which profit center do you love the most?
So it's super interesting, right? Because when I first started investing, and that's one of the reasons I still love doing this, I still love coming on shows, I still love leading the Passive Income Club and working with Fortune Builder students, is because I want to help other families get on the kind of the financial path that I was able to help my family get on, is I saw the impact of it, but, and also have them learn from the mistakes I made, right? When I first started investing as a newbie investor, because I was solely focused, like you said, on the first one, right? I made the only decision I made was that one sheet of paper that came over. It was a piece of paper, it was an Excel spreadsheet that comes over. It's like, what's my cash on cash return year one, right? What's my money working for me? How hard year one? That's the only thing I made decisions off. So at the beginning of my career, I made that mistake, and that was my favorite one. Now that I'm a bit more mature, we joke about, you think I'm super young. I think I'm super old because I've been in this business for, going on 16 years now, right? I started when I was 20, I'm 36 now. I've got 16 years of real estate experience, specifically in owning rental properties. And my favorite are the two combined, right? Principal paydown and appreciation. And the common factor here is you throw time onto both of those, and that's when it can get really exciting. And so those are my favorites as I've evolved and matured in the business. When you start to move out of just the cash on cash return focus, and you start to focus on the whole picture, and you acquire the skills that we teach, the skills that you guys teach at JWB, and you have some stuff that teaches those skills. When you acquire those skills of how to financially engineer your own portfolio, and I'll teach you what I mean about financially engineer a little bit later, you can start to choose what path you want to go down and accelerate things, right? And accelerate your success, or accelerate your retirement, or reduce the time it takes for you to retire. Whatever your goal is, there is a way to accelerate to it. And that's what financial engineering is. And so those are the two main ones that help you get there faster. So they're my favorite now.
I love it, man. And those are two that are equally misunderstood as well. People think they know about home price appreciation, but they don't really know how to evaluate it. They don't know what to expect from it. Principal paydown, nobody even thinks about that. But the value of surrounding yourself with those who have walked them many, many miles in those shoes before will help you see that. I think about one that is also just incredibly misunderstood at a deep level is cash flow. Is net rental income. So many folks spend so much time making a decision on a rental property about an extra $20 a month of cash flow or $50 a month of cash flow in year one. And, that's about the least beneficial part of this entire asset is year one cash flows. But that's what's on the spreadsheet, and that's what many people focus on. What people don't realize is it's not about cash flow today. The cash flow that you buy in your rental properties when you buy it today is not going to change your life. But what it is about is it provides cash flow when you need it. And the way that this asset just grows that cash flow over time is unmatched, is largely unmatched in the investing community. And when you think about rents going up over time and think about your expenses being held constant. So that's one of the reasons why we chose this show to invite the Fortune Builders community to be a part of. It's because we're so excited to help you guys accelerate that profitability in all 5 profit centers, but thinking about cash flow, thinking about principal paydown. How can we accelerate and put these things on steroids to help you get to your financial goal 3, 5, maybe even 10 years quicker just by employing the strategy that we're going to get into?
Yeah. And before we get into that strategy and talking about really understanding this stuff and getting into these profit centers, we did put together this class called the NotYourAverageGuide.com. And it's for $997. A lot of our community has taken it already. But if you want to dive deeper into these topics and truly understand rental property investing and what it takes to succeed at a passive level, this class is just about a little bit over 2 hours of video training. You get lifetime course to it, and it'll teach you how to choose the right market, how to read a property evaluation, how to fund the investment, the do's and don'ts of property management. And then again, the 5 profit centers, we go in depth talking about what they are and what is going to kill them, right? So we have a whole section on cash flow killers and rent appreciation killers and the different things that you got to be careful for, regardless of who you're doing business with. You want to walk in as a informed consumer, then this will give you all the tools that you need to make the best decision, regardless of the market for you, regardless of the provider, all the best questions to ask and what you should be expecting from it. So it includes lifetime course access, 2+ hours of content video training, weekly live group trainings, and access to a private Facebook community. You can get it at notyouraverage.com. I want to get into the lesson of today, so I'm going to tease this, but we have a special offer for you because you're here for this class right now that we will get into a little bit later. But right now, I think everybody wants to know accelerating debt pay down, increasing cash flows. It all sounds real exciting, Paul. You are the best in the world at teaching this thing, man. I've seen you do it a couple of times. So I'm gonna tee you up. Tell us about this C3X thing that everybody raves about every time we talk about it.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of, I would say, outside of just the Fortune Builders community, it's kind of what put us on the map. It helped really catch fire, not only in people's individual portfolios, but helped us really catch fire on the broader scale as well too. I know it became a whole buzz. I would go to a conference and people are coming up to me like, "The heck did you do? What is this? What is going on? How do you have this new thing?" And it really caught fire. And so the origin of it, I always like to tell the story behind it, right? What was the problem we were trying to solve? All right, let's set the frame for what we're about to talk about. And it's what I talked about earlier and alluded to was the cash flow that comes in was really what we were focused on early in our careers. And I had a business partner and a mentor at the time. He was my mentor. I was very much the mentee in the relationship, was Noah Cosby. And Noah Cosby bought a lot of rental properties, just like Than and Paul told us to. Similar story to me, right? Loved the cash flow that was coming in. And he bought a lot of rental properties from Greg, right? And we were getting that, 50, 80, 100, 120, $200 a month coming in from each of the rental properties. He said, this is great. But what's the problem he was trying to solve? Like most successful people and most, people who want a lot of nice things, they want to go faster, want to go faster, want to go faster. So we ran into two issues. The couple $100 a month coming in from the rental properties was great, but it wasn't going to change his life. And that was the realization he had. Just the cash flow, yeah, it's great, but it's a couple $100 per rental property. While the cash on cash return was phenomenal, that percentage was amazing, but it wasn't going to change his life. The $2,000 or $3,000 a month isn't life changing. So let's de-emphasize that and start thinking about the whole picture. What am I actually trying to do? Well, I'm trying to get this cash flow to double and triple. How do I get this to grow exponentially, right? And the second problem we were trying to solve specifically for him was he ran into a barrier where he could only get 10 conventional loans at any one time. So to do the, 20, 30% down kind of normal loan that we all know and love, and yeah, interest rates are higher than they were a couple of years ago, and they'll go down again and they'll go up and down. And back in the 80s, they were 18%, by the way. So everyone stop freaking out that they're 6 now. Oh my God, relax. Okay, relax. Let's have some perspective. He could only get 10 of those at a time. Right. And so he wanted a way where, well, how do I free myself up to buy more and buy faster and really accelerate the path? So what we did is we started spitballing, and he said, well, what if we de-emphasize the cash flow? What are you using that cash flow now for? And we started asking him questions. The same thing we do with the Passive Income Club when we build relationships and portfolios for clients. Same thing Greg does with his team, right? And same thing Greg's team does when we get on the phone with you. You schedule a call with JWB. What's the website again, Greg? Chatwithjwb.com.
Well done, right? Brother. Well done.
I'm going great for a reason. I remember these things. When you go and do that, they're going to ask you the same types of questions. Well, what do you need? What is your investment objective? What are you trying to do? If you need the cash flow to pay bills and do things right now, great. But what if you don't, right? What if your plan is in 5 years to retire or 10 years to retire, or really as soon as you can to retire? Or you have income coming in anyways. And so this is just ancillary, it's just additional. Well, what do you do with it? Well, what if, and we started playing around, well, it'd be really cool when I pay this thing off. Because when I pay this thing off and I don't have that debt anymore, well, my cash flow goes up. Well, why? I don't have a mortgage payment anymore, right? Well, I have round numbers. $100,000 house, put 20% down on it, I owe 80. Once I get rid of that $80,000 loan, I don't have to pay the bank that $500, $600, $800, $900,000 a month mortgage payment. That's cash flow to me. How do I do that quicker? So when we de-emphasize the need for the cash flow, so let's just apply it back to all the mortgages. Let's pay our mortgages down quicker to get to our end result. I want to own these free and clear quicker. And we said, okay, great. And we ran the math and did the numbers. And we got a whole spreadsheet. We have tools that do this and all stuff. And Greg has the same tools, and his team can do a great job doing all that personally for you and showing you this. I said, great. We accelerated our cash flow. And in 10, 15, 20 years, I've doubled my cash flow. This is cool. I don't want to wait 15 years, right? Noah Cosby specifically was pretty impatient. Let's go. He's a high performer. So the next iteration was we ran the math and we said, okay, what if I have 2 or 3 rental properties and I've been stacking my rentals like we talked about? He happened to have 10 because he's a high performer and a high earner and he went all in, right? But not everyone's going to do that. So we ran it. Well, what if I only did like 1 or 2 rentals a year and I have 2 or 3 or 4 rentals? What happens if I take the cash flow from all of them and I just attack one rental property's mortgage and pay that down quicker? I just bombard that mortgage every month with extra principal pay down. What happens, right? And the punchline is that sucker gets paid off way quicker, right? And the headline I know for this particular show was, how to accelerate your retirement by 3 or 5 years. Let me tell you, it's way more than 3 or 5 years. And Greg will show you that in a little bit. Is we can really accelerate that mortgage payoff almost exponentially. We can pay that thing off way quicker. And obviously, the more rentals you have, the quicker you can do that. And so it helped us solve that problem. Remember, the problem was we were limited to like 10 rentals and 10 loans. As soon as we pay one off, we can add one. And we've boosted our cash flow for the long haul. He doesn't need it now. It's a long haul thing. So what it became was what we would call like a debt snowball. You start doing this, and then the second one gets paid off quicker. And then the third one gets paid off quicker. Fourth one, quicker. And it starts to accelerate. And it's a debt snowball. It starts to accelerate in a positive way. Not we're getting more and more and more debt. No, we're paying them off quicker and quicker. And here's the key with this. This worked because it fit his objectives, right? And so that's why the key is understanding what is it you're trying to do. And Greg talked about all 5 of those centers. That cash flow is great. When do you need that cash flow? And if you don't need that right now, you can use those other centers, principal pay down and appreciation and doing all these things. If you can use these financial engineering tools to help you achieve your goals if it's in alignment, right? And that's the cool part. That's why you jump on the phone with Greg and team. That's why you take the class, to start to really understand and be educated on, wow, I took that class and it helped me understand how these works. Now I understand how I can fit my goals into that asset class, right? So Greg, that's the summary of it and the story. I think we have some details and some case studies to walk through that as well too, and kind of drive the point home, right?
Yeah, I think you did a great job of walking people through it. Here's the nutshell why I love the C3X strategy so much. It's because, when you're an investor, when you've got your investor hat on, sometimes you have to make decisions that are uncomfortable. It's hard to find a decision that just makes sense financially and makes sense for your lifestyle and just makes you more comfortable too. You don't often have those types of opportunities, but that's what C3X represents to me. Financially, return on investment, it makes tremendous sense for you to be able to achieve this level of income for you, right? We talk about that return on that investment coming from the income. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Lifestyle wise, right? For many investors who are investing in rental properties, you're not buying that rental property today to make that $50 or $100 a month in cash flow. And that's not the reason. That is a nice thing to have, but that's not the reason. The reason you're doing it is to set your lifestyle up for success when you need it. And so from a lifestyle perspective, C3X makes a lot of sense. And then I think we can all agree that, just feels good to pay some debt off, right? Sometimes that's not the best thing to do overall, but in this case, it really does accomplish that. And so I think the key and the beauty to C3X has been making this simple and easy to understand. And the formulas and the spreadsheets are just bonkers that actually do this. But luckily, through Shively and through Noah Cosby and through the Fortune Builders team, our team has that same formulaic approach to actually building this strategy for clients. So we can make this simple and easy to understand. It's a part of every JWB client experience. And so when you can match those 3 things and make it easy to understand, I think you've really got something. And that's really, so we put some numbers together to be able to show that and to be able to make it easy and understand. But Shively, before we get into it, why don't you just tell people kind of like in a nutshell, What is the strategy behind the formulas and things like that? Kind of wrap it up. Like, what are we doing with C3X?
Yeah. So in its most simple form, and there's a lot of math behind this, and it's not like we're trying to say we're smarter than anyone else. It's just there's a lot of math and Excel spreadsheets behind all this stuff, and we're happy to show it to you, right? It's all good. But the very simple broken down is you take your net cash flow that Greg was talking about from your entire portfolio. So that's profit center number one, right? You're taking your entire profit center number one, right? And no matter how many houses you have, this works if you have 2 houses. This works if you have 20 houses. It works if you have 8. It works across the board. Any house up here that's your rental portfolio that funnels down into your net cash flow, take your net cash flow and apply all of it in extra principal payments to one property. So you're taking all this and lumping it down towards one property. That's C3X in its simplest form, right? And the reason we call it C3X is it's Noah Cosby came up with it with me. So it's Cosby compound cash flow. So there's 3 C's, 3 C3X, right? And so we're taking that cash flow and we're trying to compound it. How do we get it to go faster? Like we talked about. And by taking all of that, applying it to one mortgage payment, right? And there's some science behind and some math behind which mortgage payment you choose, right? Depends on your portfolio. There's some customization there. Take all of it, apply it to one. What we're doing is we're taking our cash flow and allowing it to compound our overall returns, like we talked about. If we pay this off quicker, our cash flow goes up. Then we take it and apply it towards the second one, and that gets paid off. And then our cash flow goes up, and it starts to go faster and faster and faster, and it compounds.
Yep. I love it, man. And there's different approaches, which balance you choose to pay off first, right? You could look at the one that is the highest interest rate.
Right.
But generally what we advise is to pay off the lowest loan balance first. And the reason that we do that is because that by attacking that lowest loan balance first, you pay that loan off even quicker. It frees up this large amount of cash flow now that then snowballs into paying that next one off. And what you'll see here soon is you pay the first one off and it takes a certain amount of time. Well, that next one takes close to half the time. And the next one after that takes even less. And that's where it gets to be really, really fun.
Yep.
So as the noble fool on the show, right? I'm going to try to just boil this down into layman's terms, right? I'm the newest real estate investor here of the bunch. When I first saw this C3X strategy, probably about 3 years ago, when we were kind of getting started on the show, I know that now we have a lot of the people from our community. You're seeing it in the chat. They use C3X. They invest with Jacksonville, in Jacksonville with JWB. What I saw is that Fortune Builders put together a spreadsheet that allows you to really optimize this strategy. And what Paul is saying, when you have multiple rental properties, most people, like myself, when I first started, just think, okay, I'm going to pay my mortgages across every property equally. And what these guys are saying is that if you take and get really, really strategic about paying one mortgage down first with a surplus of capital that's coming in every single month with that cash flow that you have, and you get strategic about paying a specific one, you zero in on one to pay that thing down, that accelerates the time. It shortens the time for which you are paying a mortgage on that one. And the moment that that mortgage gets paid off, then your cash flow jumps dramatically, which allows you to pay the next one off to make your cash flow jump dramatically quicker. And there's a whole strategy of which one you pay off first, depending on what your goal is. And that is what we are talking about, that you jump on the phone with JWB or you use this thing for yourself, and you can really get to a point where you're getting your cash flow much quicker and earning equity and reaching those goals faster. We're going to go through a case study to illustrate this thing because it's meaty, right? We want you to see it, to believe it. First, I want to answer a couple of questions that we have in the Q&A. First one by Rachel Bum. Welcome to the show, Rachel. Glad to have you. She's asking, what's this February meetup that people are talking about in the chat? GC, you want to talk about our annual Not Your Average Investor meetup real quick?
Absolutely. What a great time to invite, especially our Fortune Builders friends who might be joining for the first time. Every year now, I think this is the 3rd year that we've been doing it. We have our annual Not Your Average Investor meetup here in Jacksonville. And we have our friends fly in from all over the country. And they come for a couple of reasons. One, many people want to learn about investing in rental properties with JWB here in Jacksonville. And so it's a great opportunity for you to get your hands on an actual property. We do a tour of JWB properties, and you get to actually see what the assets look like. So that's a really big bonus. And then you get to be a part of this thriving community. Every single Tuesday and Thursday, folks show up. 50, 70, 100 folks show up every single show during the middle of the workday. And there's a reason, because we have a special community. So you get to meet friends, be a part of that community, and grow together. And the third, and probably the thing that has kind of become the most sexy thing, I would say, over the course of the last year or two, is you get to be front and center of seeing what it's like for a downtown to be revitalized. And Jacksonville is in the middle of a revitalization. And some people know about it, some don't. But what many people don't understand is that there's $4 billion of active construction going on in downtown Jacksonville right now. And JWB is, as we talked about earlier, invested. We own the equivalent of 20 city blocks in downtown Jacksonville because we see it, and we've seen it for a long time here. We've invested over $68 million in downtown Jacksonville. And so you get to come down, be a part of this tour, and you get to walk through some of these buildings, or we're going to have opportunities for you to see VR what this downtown experience is going to look like in 2 years. And for our friends who have been here for multiple years, they've been able to see the growth happen year over year. So that's happening February 16th and February 17th. And we would love to invite everybody. Just go ahead and save the date right now. We don't have a place for you to sign up and register yet, but February 16th and 17th, 2024, we'll be opening that up here soon, and would invite everybody to come and be a part of it.
Limited spaces, right? Like we try to keep it in like one bus. So it's about 50 people, and then we cap it off. So yeah, when we open it up, we want to see you. Come meet us. Come meet downtown Jacksonville. Couple more quick questions, fellas. Linda Allen's asking, what happens if the loan is interest only with a prepayment penalty? Is that applicable, Paul?
Yeah, it totally is, right? I mean, and that's why I said, the caveat here, and for everyone who knows me from the Fortune Builders community, they know my favorite saying is it depends, because it depends on a lot of things, right? So our job here is to give you the general, and this is you said it, Pablo, this isn't a 101 strategy. This isn't a 202 strategy. It's kind of like a 303 or a 404 strategy. This is like, this isn't basic stuff. This is more advanced stuff. In order to apply this strategy to you, there is a lot of customization that should happen before you apply it. There's a lot of time on the phone with Greg's team to build a custom strategy to you and apply the strategy to your portfolio and build it intentionally, right? Because you can apply it towards the highest mortgage balance, the lowest mortgage balance. You can apply it to the highest interest rate or the lowest interest. Like you can apply it to a lot of different things, and they hit different objectives, each one of those, right? Like if you have a loan that is adjustable with a potential for the loan to go up in the short term, well, that might be a strategy we want to take and pay that one off. We may have one with a prepay penalty where we don't want to touch. Maybe not. We can run the math. How much is your prepay penalty, right? Prepay penalty loans usually have what's called a 3-2-1 step down. 3 years out, it's a high penalty. 2 years out, it's lower. 1 year out, it's a lot lower. So it depends. Where are you at, right? There's a lot of customization that happens. So the financial concept is what we're trying to teach. How do you financially engineer your life? How do you financially engineer your investments to have you help achieve the life you want to live, right? With the freedom you want. A lot of that depends on you. What do you got? What's your portfolio look like? And what are you trying to do? What I'm trying to do is different than what Pablo's trying to do, different than what Greg's trying to do, right? Same concept. We might apply it in different ways, right?
Yeah, thanks for that, Paul. I would assume that Marty Quinn's question, I've got 150 additional to put towards 3 mortgages from cash flow on existing rentals, but it seems like so little. Still worth it, I know, but does it make sense to pay more out of my disposable income? Is that also it depends?
Yeah, it very much depends, right? And this is the beautiful part of why I like to do, right? Like I get excited when I talk about this, so I try and calm myself down, right? But real estate's just the widget. What we're really doing here, what the secret sauce of what Fortune Builders and Passive Income Club and Greg Cohen and JWB is really doing is it's financial engineering. And real estate just happens to be our widget because it's got those 5 profit centers like we talked about. And we can use leverage. The banks give us tons of leverage and tons of debt to do it. So there's a lot of things to play with, right? And if you have ancillary income that's not doing anything and you're not investing it anywhere else potentially, we can absolutely run the math. And it's a math equation, simple math. The math will tell us what to do. in combination with your investment objective. You've got to be clear. And I want to kind of beat this one over the head and take a little extra time and slow us down. If you're clear on what it is you're trying to do, your investment objective, you spent the time with Greg's team, you've hopped on the phone, you've taken the class, you understand these things, you are educated, right? You've taken that class. Say it again. You've taken the class. You're educated on what's going on. You've jumped on the phone with them and you really get that customization and you're clear on what it is you're trying to do. I just want to make as much as I possibly can because my investments suck right now. That's not really clear. When do you want to retire? How much do you need to retire? What's your cash flow goal? How long do you want to keep working? Those things are vital questions to answer. Then you can build a plan around it, right? And that plan may be, let's take extra ancillary income and accelerate this thing even faster. Heck yeah, absolutely. Because mathematically, that may be the best investment for that money. But the short answer is it's dangerous for me to just say yes, because I don't know you yet, right? A doctor doesn't diagnose cancer just by looking at you for 5 minutes. We need the x-rays and the CT scans and all that stuff, right? Same thing with this, right? Financial engineering is great, but we need some inputs from y'all to really do it appropriately, if that makes sense, on a unique basis. Greg, does that make sense?
I think you nailed it, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally nailed it. We have a question in the Q&A saying, what is this class that Paul keeps mentioning? Funny you ask, Vic Murdrick. We have the Not Your Average guide that we put together. That is a crash course in how you invest in rental properties passively, teach you how to choose the right market, how to read a property evaluation, how to fund the investment, what you need to know about property management, what'll kill your cash flows, really explain the 5 profit centers. You get lifetime course access, 2+ hours of video training, weekly live group trainings, access to a private community, and you can get it all at notyouraverage.com. Folks, we teased that there's a deal today. I know that we shared it in the chat already, but just in case you weren't paying attention to the chat, this course is $997, but today for those of you that are here and active with Fortune Builders, since you are our friends, we have a today only code to get this for free. If you put FB free, right? Fortune Builders free, FB free in the discount code, you're going to get it for free. So do yourself a favor, get this $997 value, go to notyouraverage.com, put in the code FB free, spend the 2 hours with me and GC talking about rental property investing. It's going to be a good time. I promise. You're going to get some nuggets. You're going to know all about it. But for right now, what we'd like to do is go into the case study that Greg put together to really highlight this stuff, right, GC? You want me to pull this thing up for you?
Yeah, go ahead. It's free to actually see some numbers here. I know this has been a really exciting call. Let's dive into some numbers here and give the people what they want.
Yeah, speaking of exciting, I know this is your favorite thing to dive into real quick.
Oh, this is my favorite part of the whole show. Anytime that we're putting numbers together, everybody should do their own due diligence. You guys know this stuff, right? We are not financial advisors. We are not offering financial planning advice. Do your homework. And with that, I think we jump into the most exciting part.
Let's jump in, baby.
All right. Well, even before we get into the numbers here, let me just kind of like take you back to where my headspace was when I was putting this case study together. I see a big problem in our country. And I see a big problem and I see a lot of apathy and not a whole lot of solutions. And the big problem for everybody in our country is that it's been really hard to retire comfortably for a while, but it's going to get a lot harder for everyday people to retire comfortably when we all want to retire, whether that is 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now. It's going to be harder. I think if you're a 30 to 40-year-old person right now, you might be thinking about retiring in, let's say, 20 years or 25 years. You know, right now, people who get to retire get the benefits of Social Security. But if you ask anybody who's 30, 40 years old, do they think Social Security is going to be around or be like it is right now? The answer is a resounding no, because there's no way to fund it currently. So just comparing apples to apples, we who are trying to retire in, let's say, 20 years or 25 years are going to have a harder job doing it if Social Security is not there, right? You may be 50 or 60 years old, and you may be saying to yourself, well, I want to retire in 10 years or maybe 15 years. Well, Social Security may be around for you, but it also might not be. And regardless, we know healthcare costs are going up at a really high rate. So it's going to be harder for our 50 to 60-year-old folks to be able to retire than it is right now, just simply because healthcare costs are super, super high and rising at a fast rate. And folks who are maybe 70 or 80 years old, we have a lot of clients that start investing in rental properties in their 70s and 80s, many who are on the call today and who are with us each show. And you might be saying, you know what? Right now, I want to retire. I am retired, but I can't count on the consistency of the income. And so that's a real challenge. Rental properties can obviously help with that, but what they also do is they can solve for your future generations. They can solve some of these problems that are coming as well. No Social Security, rising healthcare costs. So I was starting to think about the problem that we have as a country and what can I do about it today? What decision can I make today to set myself up for success, whether that is 5, 10, 20 years down the road? And so that's the mindset that we put this case study together with. I'm going to start small here and just show the effects of just one turnkey rental property with the normal pay down strategy that people may have. Okay, and we're going to kind of create a baseline, and then we're going to show the amplified effects of what C3X can do for you. So what you see on the screen here is a JWB turnkey investment property. And, you know, the assumptions here that I built all of these numbers based off of is just what many people are doing today, right? They are using conventional financing. This assumption is using 40% down with a 6.125% fixed interest rate, 30-year loan. It can go up and down for that, but that's what I chose for this example. And so for this specific property, which is a currently available JWB home, the market value of the price is $265,000. So for those who are maybe not JWB clients yet, that's really normal for a JWB home. The median home sales price in Jacksonville is about $360 right now. So you want to be below the median there, and that's kind of where we live. The initial investment and the down payment on this one would be $106,000. For a typical JWB home, your minimum down payments and out of pocket is going to be about $75,000, but it can go up from there. So for this example, about $106,000. And for this property, your annual cash flows about $1,200 a year. Okay, so $1,200 a year, about $100 a month. That's what Shively and I were talking about earlier. When you buy a rental property, it's not about the cash flow that's going to change your life day one or even for the first few years. What are you going to do with that $100 a month? And that's really where C3X, shines. So let's go to the next screen here, and we're going to talk about how normal, if people do want to use that $100 to pay down the debt, how they would go about it. Well, many people just make the minimum monthly payments, and there is a reason to do that as well. I'm not saying that's the wrong thing, but if you want to reach your financial goals and get that income as quick as possible, you're probably going to want to use that cash flow to accelerate the payments. So if you just took that, call it $100 a month, and you use that to accelerate the payments, you would drop that payment, that mortgage payment would be paid off 6.5 years faster just by doing what we would call the average way of going about it. So one property cuts 6.5 years right off the bat. Now, truth be told, that's not rocket science. Anybody could have said that. So what we're doing here is just creating a baseline. But Pablo, go ahead and click the next button there because I want to shed some light. Well, actually, yeah, let's go there. What I wanted to shed some light on here is the pay down of the principal is only half of the beauty of this thing. Because what's also happening for rental properties is that your rents are going up year after year after year. And when you think about the compounding effects of rents going up year over year over year, and you also see your loan balance going down and ultimately getting paid off, you start to create an asset that will start to make up for the lack of Social Security, or will start to overcome some of the additional increased expenses coming from healthcare costs. I mean, Pablo, look at this right here. If you just did this, which is not C3X, what you would have created is an income stream of, what's that, it's about $2,200 a month of cash flow just from one rental property. You own 3 of them. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'd love to be getting $6-7 grand a month in cash flow a month. That sounds wonderful.
There you go. And that's just the normal debt pay down approach. So the thought here and the key here is it's not cash flow today, it's cash flow when you need it. And you probably are going to be surprised at how much cash flow is going to be there when you need it by investing in a single family rental property, which is one of the reasons I fell in love with this asset class many years ago. But now let's kick it up a notch. Now let's go into the C3X approach. So now we're going to assume that you are a client who is buying 3 properties in your JWB turnkey rental property portfolio. And oh, by the way, if you're a client who already owns these 3 properties, you've owned them for 5 years or 3 years, this absolutely applies to you too. There's no limitation on when you can start the C3X strategy. But let's just assume that you invested today. How's this going to look in the future? So let's say that you bought these 3 properties that has a market value of $800,000. Your initial investments, $320,000 to be able to own those properties, and your cash flows from those 3 properties over $4,000, $4,380 in your annual cash flow. And that's actually year 1, right? So that's right off the bat there. You know, I should probably make mention there that that $320,000, listen, that can be a lot for some people. That can not be a lot for some people. But what many people don't realize is that that financial engineering that we're talking about, you know, many people have a significant amount of capital in retirement accounts that they're not happy with how it's performing. You know, that same capital can be used to put into an asset like real estate and couple that with effective debt paydown strategies to create the income that you need in retirement. So, you know, there's sources of capital here. This doesn't mean that you have to have 320 grand in your bank account today, but start thinking about those other sources of capital, and retirement accounts are a big source for a lot of our clients. So you got this $4,380 on an annual basis, and you're getting this year after year after year. And then you say, you talk to JWB, you talk to the Passive Income Club, you listen to this, you took the class, and you say, listen, C3X is for me. Now let's start to look at how you're reshaping your financial goals and doing it much quicker. If you employ the C3X strategy here, you'll have your first mortgage paid off, not in 30 years, it'll be paid off in 14 and a half years. By continuing that strategy, by paying that first one off, now you've created a whole lot of cash flow, and you add that to the mix. And now you pay off that second mortgage, and it's paid off, what is that, in 5 years there. So the first one took 15, the second one only takes 5. And then you free up a lot of additional cash flow because you don't have that first or second mortgage. And then you start to attack the third one. And the third mortgage is paid off in only roughly 3 additional years. So without C3X, you would have had 3 properties that would have been paid off in 30 years, right? With C3X and using that cash flow that you probably didn't need, wasn't really going to affect your life, that $100 a month or what have you, you could effectively put that towards this strategy, and you can have all 3 paid off in under 23 years, which for many people might be when they need that cash flow. And I started to put some numbers to it. You start to think about how much rents are going to increase based on historical standards, and you start to think about how much mortgage payments you will not have to make in year 23, what you've created for yourself is an annual income stream of over $76,000 when you need it. It's not cash flow today is going to change your life, but it will change your life when you need it later on. And we haven't even gotten into the other profit centers. Oh, by the way, there's a whole bunch of other profit centers too. So this $76,000 income stream, I started to put some numbers to it as well. You know, right now, the average payout on a monthly basis for Social Security is about $1,700 a month, right? How are we going to overcome that as a country? Well, if you start to actually model it out, what's that going to be worth in like 20 years, 25 years? That's probably closer to about $4,000 a month. So we're already, all of us are probably starting out $4,000 behind the 8 ball today. But you could make a decision to reposition your assets, use the C3X strategy, and you can more than overcome that from a decision that you make today, and just stick to the plan. So Pobbs, you got 3 properties here, right? We're talking about a portfolio here of paying off 3 properties. I know your cash flows are similar to that right now. What are you seeing? What are you feeling as somebody that is relatively early on in your journey, but, you know, seeing the numbers and how they can play out?
Man, I'm loving it, right? Like I don't see, let's talk real numbers, right? I am 43 years old. In 22 and a half years, I am right there, right? I'm at 65. I'm not sure if that's still going to be the retirement age, right? Like it feels like that stuff's going up in other countries. It's probably going to follow suit here. If I'm looking to, at that point, not be beholden to my job and not be beholden to some kind of employment or having to work full time, the idea of having in the realm of like 76, 80 grand a year coming in and just cash flow alone to pay for my expenses and like diversify me from having to have like an active income stream is very, very attractive. And like you said, I've taken the class, I've been part of these shows. So I know that not only do I now have 76K, to whatever 80K in cash flow a year, but I also have access to a bunch of other things that real estate provides, right? Like I now own those houses outright. My equity is that much. There's interesting things that I can do there as well. So I just see this as like a very attractive way to ensure that I'm going to be getting to like a comfortable retirement and control my own life without the fluctuations of, hey, I just got to build up this like one number and then hope that the stock market doesn't go up and down too much in order for me to pay for my prescription bills or whatever.
Can I jump in and 0 degree a couple things here, if you don't mind? Do we have 2 or 3 minutes, Greg? Is that okay?
100%, of course.
Forcing my way into this conversation. Sorry, everybody. I want to 0 degree something because Pablo, I love what you're saying, and I 100% agree with it. I'm seeing in the chat, some folks here are older than you, Pablo, right? Mm-hmm. My father, older than you, by 20, 30 years, Pablo. We use the same strategy for my father. If you're 65 and 70, this can work. And it can work for a very couple of direct reasons. Number one, it's a wonderful strategy for future generations to be able to almost guarantee them a source of income. You have a child or a grandchild who in 15 to 20 years might use 70 grand a month or 70 grand a year in income. Probably a pretty powerful thing. Let's 0 degree that, right? It's not always about us. The reason I'm investing is for my brother's sons, right? My brother's in the military. So a lot of my investment strategy right now is setting up my nephews, right? So when they turn 18, right? 10 plus years from now, right? So I have a 10-year time horizon for them. I have a 30-year time horizon for me. I have a 0-year time horizon for my father. We invest in very different ways. We use the same principles to do the same thing. What we're talking about for a 75, 72, 65, 62-year-old person, maybe a little bit different. We may use the same strategies and accelerate it down to a 2 or 3 year plan, right? Because you can use the same strategy, still do the debt pay down, but what did we not talk about? Well, houses go up in value as well too, right? We can refinance. We can create some delta between, wait, I'm still paying down my debt. Property value is here and I'm paying down my debt, right? Well, in 2 or 3 years, we've paid down our debt and the value of the house has gone up as well too. You've created a large delta there potentially. And you can do a lot of things like refinance or potentially sell because you get sick and all of a sudden you need 40, 50, 60,000 to pay for a cancer treatment or whatever. Ask me how I know. Did it with my dad, right? So this strategy is powerful. Yes, we're showing, someone just said, 74 and retired this year. Heck yeah. I love that you're on here, right? Because these things can work for you, and that's the customization piece. Don't get hung up in a 20-year time horizon. For Pablo, for Greg, for me, that works. 10-year time horizon for my nephews, right? 0-year time horizon for my dad. He needs it now, right? This person who just said 74 and retired now, you need it now. I get it. You can apply these same things, right? To Joel, who just retired. Love that. Nadeem, congratulations. Love this community. Everyone's like loving on each other down there in the comments. I love it, right? You can apply the same concepts depending on where you are in your journey, what your investment objective is, like we talked about. We can combine that strategy and customize it to you, right? So I want to like 0 degree that for some people. Like this is applicable across the board. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in too. I think that was a great point. Overall, the way that you win in real estate investing is the same way that I have won and that Shively wins and that Pablo wins. It's about the people that you surround yourself with. And it's the access to the mentorship and it's the access to the education and it's being one phone call away because this strategy is excellent, and it does help a tremendous amount of people accomplish their goals. But guess what? You're going to have more questions. You're going to have additional questions. There's going to be other things that we need to add on to this. And so that's why I want to really invite all of you to take advantage of the access to the people who have done this before. And you do that a couple of different ways. The first is through the course, like we talked about. So go to notyouraverageinvestor.com and use the promo code FBFree. I did want to make sure everybody knew that we are doing that code in honor of Paul Shively and our Fortune Builder friends who are here. But you don't have to be a Fortune Builder student to take advantage of it. What you do have to do is to go ahead and enroll today, because it is for today only. It's the only time on this show that we have offered it for free. So you do need to go to notyouraverage.com, put in code FBFree, and sign up for that. That's one half of the equation. The other half of the equation is reaching out to JWB and starting that relationship, whether now is the right time for you to be investing in rental properties, whether you've already invested in rental properties and you might want to add more, and you want to figure out, how can I shave these years off of my timeline to get to my financial goals? The class, being in the class and getting that education, along with the access to people who have done this at a high level, is how you're going to be that next success story. So I did want to encourage everybody to do that. And then the third thing, come and join us at the tour, the Not Your Average Investor Tour, which is February 16th and February 17th of next year. But yeah, that's been my path. It's been, what, 18 years we've been doing this together, Shively? For the most part, it's 18 years for me. You and I have been super good buddies for probably 15 of those years. And, you know, when I go back to the beginning, I can't thank the Fortune Builders team enough for being that mentor to me, for helping me connect the dots, because the hardest part's getting started.
Amen. Amen.
I just want to we got a couple of questions. If you guys have another like 5 minutes, we can just jam through a couple of questions. Great. First, real quick, Leonid Yukamets is asking, will this recording be available to us? Absolutely, Leonid. If you go to the JWB Not Your Average Investor Show YouTube channel, it'll be up there on Monday, post-produced. I think right now, if you can tap into the live videos, it's already there. We also publish this on podcasts. So anywhere that you've put Not Your Average Investor Show, YouTube or podcast, you're going to be able to see this show starting Monday. And if you want it emailed to you, just shoot a email to info@jwbcompanies.com and they can send it to you as well. Also, all right, guys, real quick, let's go through these. Linda Carroll says, thanks. And as an investor, is JWB looking for investors now? And what are the tax shelters or benefits as the investor?
Yes, JWB is looking for investors now. We sell our turnkey rental properties along with the vertically integrated approach of property management and all aspects under one roof. So that is available now. And the other question was about tax shelters. Oh, we love tax shelters, probably more than I'll have enough time to go into right now, but I would highly encourage you to.
Greg, that sounds like I have the self-promotion plug. Maybe I can come on again, maybe talk about those.
I think we might have that in the works there, Shively. I mean, you really are trying to get to that 5-timers jacket, aren't you?
I thought I already was. Now I'm trying to get to like the 10-timers jacket, but instead I'll wear my own jackets until we get.
Yeah, we are hoping to really combine a lot of our efforts, right? The Fortune Builders and Passive Income Club and Mastery does a tremendous amount of education. We do a tremendous amount of education here at JWB and the Not Your Average Investor Show. And there isn't a tighter relationship that there is in business between Fortune Builders and JWB. So we want everybody to be a part of all of this. We're going to be inviting Shively back on a much more regular basis. So this is going to become kind of one big family is the hope. And so we're super, super excited about that. So we'll make sure to do some additional shows on the tax savings component, but I would highly encourage you to go ahead and register for the class. There is a course module specifically on the profit centers. One of those is tax savings. So go ahead and download that, enroll in that. And if you have additional questions, you can reach out to my team. You can shoot an email to info@JWB Companies. You can call us 904-677-6777. We're here to help.
Okay, a couple of hard-hitting questions real quick. First, I want to answer Andrea Azar's real fast. As a Fortune Builders member and JWB client, is this financial engineering something you can do for individual investors? Yes. If you are a JWB client, you have a portfolio manager. They are well-versed in this stuff. I've done it with mine. Lee's done it with his. I think everybody that's in the chat can attest to your portfolio manager helping you do that. Now, here's a tough one, guys, from someone all the way from France. Anonymous Attendee asks, how do you overcome the fact that one is investing 300K to get 4,000 in cash flow first year? That's like 1.5% return and will be the case till the first house gets paid off in 14 years. What say you?
Oh, I love that one. Anonymous Attendee. We need to help you see the bigger picture here. We need to help you see all 5 profit centers. This is a trap that many investors fall into, is they just look at the cash flows, year one cash flows, and they say, oh, this investment doesn't make sense based on that. But you're missing the big picture. In fact, 60 to 80% of your entire portfolio returns are going to be from something that's not even in that profit center. It's going to be from home price appreciation. And then your principal pay down and your tax savings and inflation hedging and profiting will actually trump that cash flow that you get. It will be a lot more than what your cash flow is, especially in the beginning of your investment. And that's why this asset class makes sense compared to your alternatives. So highly encourage you to be a part of that class. Get educated on all 5 profit centers. Go to notyouraverage.com. FB free is the code for today only. And let's get you all learned up there.
Hey, what's the dividend on Tesla stock right now?
0,
right?
Yeah.
0? Hey, what's the dividend on Apple stock right now? 0? Got it. Yeah. Okay. But wait, is Apple, if you had bought an Apple 5 years ago, was it a good investment? You bought Tesla 5 years, good investment, right? Why are we comparing apples to oranges, right? Well, why? Well, because Tesla stock pays 0 in dividends, which is what your cash flow is, but it goes up in value. Same thing. So let's look at that whole picture. If you could make 15 to 20% on every single real estate investment you did, is that a good investment? We can show you how to do that. That's what the 4 or 5 profit centers do. We've got, Greg's team can show you how almost every single one, given enough time, given a 3 to 5 year window, right? You're going to be making double-digit returns on almost all your investments. Not a guarantee, of course. Stuff happens in real estate. Stuff happens all the way across the board. Every investment has risk. When you're educated and you see the whole picture, double-digit returns on almost every single real estate deal.
And I just want to say thanks for that question, because that
Great
person's
Love
not
it.
the only person who's thinking that. And I super appreciate that question. And we would love the opportunity to work with you and help you see something that you might not be seeing.
One last question. Jeff Bolton says, how does older properties factor in? If the rate on the mortgage is, say, 3.2% and treasuries can pay 4.5%, does it make more sense to put the extra cash flow into saving to pay off in bulk when the treasury pays out versus pay off principal?
Depends on your investment objectives, right? Depends on what you're trying to do, right? I'll know very quickly how to answer that question if you give Greg's team 5-10 minutes on the phone with that person, right? Because the answer may be, yeah, maybe put in treasuries. The answer more than likely is pay the house off faster because of all 5 profit centers. Treasuries have 1 profit center, right? Or again, we're focusing, and it's a theme. It's a good theme. It's good. Same theme from last question, right? Well, what's my year 1 return look like? And people are so focused. Same mistake I made, right? That's why I get really excited about those questions. I'm not trying to jump on anybody. It's a great question because it's in people's minds. It's not just about year 1. As humans, we get bright, shiny object syndrome. That's what happens. All of us, we're humans. That's where our brains are wired to do, right? Detect danger or look at the bright, shiny object. That's what we as humans do. The bright, shiny object is year 1 return. Well, I'm paying off a 3% return or a 3% mortgage, and I could get 4 or 5 in treasuries, right? Wait a minute. Well, that's the bright, shiny object. It's the whole picture we need to take into account to really answer that. So
I love it. And Jeff's a client of ours. And I want everybody, especially those who are clients, when you have questions like that, reach out to my team. And we are here to help. My team doesn't know every answer, but I can tell you, if they don't know the answer, they're going to go and get the answer on my team. We have over 100 people here who have invested in thousands and thousands of rental properties, put our own money in thousands and thousands of rental properties, and helped, thousands of investors do the same. So the answer is somewhere in the walls here at JWB. So Jeff, just reach out to your portfolio manager. And for all JWB clients, do that. Bring us the questions. We're here to serve.
Love it. Speaking of clients, Amanda Shea is saying, been a client since 2019. Love JWB. Do you only sell single family homes? We're looking for the next level of getting 5+.
Yes, we focus on single family homes, and we believe that is the best asset class. So we're excited about it, but I understand other people for some reason think that there's a stepping stone approach. I think there's just a lack of education on some of the risks that other asset classes have, especially interest rate risk when you start to get to other types of real estate as well. So we love single family. It's probably not the answer that you want, but I have over 400 single family homes. I don't own an apartment complex. There's a reason for that. It's because I love this asset class.
Yeah. And I'll 0 degree that one too. I mean, having owned dozens and dozens and dozens of single family homes and owning multiple billions of dollars of apartment complexes and shopping centers and office buildings, some of the best investments I have ever done with the highest returns are my single family homes, right? There is some unique things you can do. And when you get to scale, at the 100 to 200 unit apartment buildings, you can do some cool things too that you singles don't do, right? Like there's pros and cons with each, right? The tough area is that middle area, like Greg's talking about, the 5 unit, the 6 units, that can be really tough. I don't own any 4 unit, 5 unit, 18 unit buildings. I own a whole bunch of single properties and a whole bunch of like 1,000 unit buildings, right? Because I have access to giant financing and stuff with fortune builders. But as an individual investor, the best deals my dad's ever done, the best deals I've ever done as an individual investor, just me, are my single family homes by far.
Let's clip that and run that as advertising, folks. Paul Shively says it. If Paul Shively says it, it must be true. Listen, folks, I know I don't even have to tease the course anymore because there's been so much traffic to the course that it's going kind of slow. So we just ask for a little bit of patience, but notyouraverage.com.
The website?
We might have broken the website. We might have broken the website. Notyouraverage.com, FB free. If you get it for free, Cody put a screenshot in the chat for those of you that are wondering where the actual coupon code goes in case you're a little confused. So look in the chat. There's a screenshot there so you can see that. Go back to it. Check out the course. If you want immediate help, right? Like if you are really looking to kickstart this journey right now, you can take the course later. info@jwbcompanies.com and they'll set it up for you, or you can go straight to chatwithjwb.com, get on a call, get that conversation going, get past the it depends questions and get into like this is exactly what you need questions at chatwithjwb.com. Fellas, I know that I probably speak for the rest of us, but getting to have a conversation with a couple of guys that together have $4 billion in assets and have so much real estate experience, man, is a truly, it's a great experience to be able to learn from you guys. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the 160 plus people that have shown up today because they recognize that value. We're going to keep doing these. So keep showing up to these. We've got other collaborations between Fortune Builders and the Not Your Average Investor Show. If you like the Not Your Average Investor Show, you like my little mustache and my antics and Greg's wisdom when Paul isn't, even when Paul's not around, check it out on the podcast. Check it out on YouTube. Join us here on Tuesday, Thursday. You show up a couple of times, you get a nickname. So that's how we treat people around here. We give you nicknames, and we'd love to meet you in February in Jacksonville. I'll kick it back over to you guys for kind of final words, fellas.
Javi, you go first, buddy. I'll take us home.
Grateful. Thanksgiving happened. I'm trying to be in a grateful mood. Gratefulness. I'm just grateful to be here. Grateful to help a couple, hopefully a couple more families get on the same trajectory that real estate's helped my family get on, right? Honestly, that's why I do this. Help your families get on that same trajectory because it's powerful. So I'm just grateful to be here. Grateful to help.
Me too. I appreciate each and every one of you from taking time out of your day, being here with us. There's things that we get to do in business that sometimes it's kind of feels like a little bit of a chore. Every time we get together with the Not Your Average Investor community and we bring fortune builders in and we get to hang out with you, Shively, and Pablo, you're here, and Cody's here, and everybody's here, it just feels like family and we can all win together. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about what we have. So super thankful to you, Shively, for being here. Thank you to all of our Fortune Builders friends for coming and hanging out. We hope you continue to come back. And to our veterans of the community here, thank you guys for continuing to show up each and every week. And can't wait to see you guys live and in person for the tour next February.
We have a little saying around here. We hope to see you next week. But from now till then, our one piece of advice is don't be average. See ya around. Thanks, everybody.
See you, everybody.